Here we have Scott Todd. He's in Indianapolis, Indiana, and he's had 17 years of experience in single family. But Scott, I'm curious. So before working with Michael and our team, what was like the moment that you realized that you needed to make a change and then you wound up joining the mentorship program?
Yeah, I had about a 6 month sabbatical during COVID, and I was really struggling to get back into the biotech space where I have worked for about 2 decades. And, during that time, I kind of fell back on some of my single family experience. And I remembered that, I'd had up to 9 units, was the largest property that I'd owned at that time. But there'd always been this kind of longing to maybe explore the larger multifamily space. And so, right around that time, I just started doing some research and came across a particular course. And so I ordered the course. I had some downtime, and I studied like crazy, and I started going out there and just kind of utilizing a single family approach. A lot of my 17 years of experience and trying to apply that and reaching out and sending out postcards and just kind of trying to do some of the things that made me somewhat successful at on the single family side of things. And I just really started getting frustrated because I was taking a do it yourself type of an approach for several months, and just kind of felt like I was spinning my wheels. And before I got into the Michael Block coaching program, one of the things that, as I look back on it now, that was really me with even acquiring property or really going the extra mile to find properties was just knowing that I didn't have the capital reserves to really do a whole lot about it. Every time I'd get into that, well, I know the bank's got me here, and started going through all the details in my mind. I pretty much paralyzed myself before I would go to the next step, even if I was getting closer to maybe finding a property that I was working with through a broker. So I think that series of just starting and then stopping based out of fear and not having maybe all the resources or assistance through others with more experience just was kind of leaving me with a really frustrated sense about the multifamily space. And then, right around that time, I came across just happenstance a Michael Blanc video and just talking about his approach to coaching in the multifamily space. And I thought, wow, there's a lot of new stuff here I hadn't heard before. Most namely, the thing that really jumped out at me was the aspect of multifamily investing is more of a team sport instead of a kind of a solo pursuit, which that just probably got more of my attention than ever because of just how I'd been approaching investing up to that point.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, how long from when you were trying to do it on your own to the point where you actually joined, how long was that kind of period of you trying and not working and trying? And
Yeah, I'd say it was at least a year. I bought this course. I spent a lot of money. I did have, as part of that course, I had 2 visits with the instructor at the time, and it was kind of like a 15-minute quick Zoom call. But, I got a little bit of encouragement here and there, but I think in my mind, I just felt like I don't want to fail at this. I don't want to give up. So even though I knew I wasn't getting the results that I wanted, I just felt like, well, I invested a lot in this and I don't want to admit that it's not working. So probably a lot more time than I needed, but right around at least a year of just spinning my wheels.
what was it that, I mean, that's a long time going about it. What was it that kind of pushed you to keep on going and knowing that there is a way and that you're going to figure it out?
Yeah, I think I was very fortunate. I just came across one of the videos from Michael, and, I watched one of the guys on the video was a guy named Chad Sheeler. And, I watched the interview that he did and I was really impressed by that. And, he mentioned Indianapolis. So I thought, well, hey, here's a guy in Indianapolis that graduated from the program, and it sounds like he's been pretty successful. And, a few days later, I didn't think too much more about it. But then a few days later, I was over at my girlfriend's house, and she said her son had just had a meeting with this guy who was looking for people to raise capital. And we mentioned it. Name's Chad Sheeler, Focus Capital. So boom, I heard Chad's name again, and then about a week after that, I get a call from a broker, and they said, hey, I don't know if you'd ever thought about investing as a limited partner, but we know this guy, Chad. He's got a 128 unit Class B property in Kokomo. I think you should meet him. And so, I've always had this rule: if you hear something 3 times in a certain period, you should probably pay attention or maybe take some action. So I think that was enough confirmation for me that, I needed to maybe reach out to Chad and pursue some of this coaching a little bit more seriously.
Wow. 3 times? I didn't even know that. That's pretty crazy. Cool. So you did that. You jumped into the program. What part of the mentorship do you feel like helped you the most?
Yeah, I think, our weekly calls, point of contact that you and I started with, and it was very, very well laid out. I would say, the modules are fantastic. I mean, the teaching there, it's so strong and it's so specific. And I think it's simple enough for me to where I felt like, I can get this. It's not too much information. It's a little bit like drinking out of the fire hose, but they're the specific actionable steps at the end of each module. I think they're really encouraging and I would say doable. And I think for me, just having so much information out there but being able to streamline it with an effective teaching method. And I think this program does an amazing job of that and the coaches along the way. So just a really nice balance of information and then following up with the coaches and getting direction and encouragement on what the next step should be just to keep that momentum rolling along.
Awesome, man. And yeah, I mean, you definitely hustled through the whole thing. So that's pretty awesome too. It's not just sit on your butt and get rich kind of thing, right? It definitely takes a lot of effort and you definitely showed that throughout the whole time working with us. So that's pretty awesome. I know you got some big news and you just got a deal done. Is there anything that you can kind of share as far as the deal and what it looks like and all that?
Yeah. So in July, I did invest with Chad as a limited partner on the Autumn Trace property. It's a 128 Class B unit in Kokomo, Indiana, about 25 minutes north of Indianapolis. And what's a little bit unique about it is that at the time I approached it already closed, but because it closed so quickly, he had a lot of his extra reserves. I think normally he would put 10 into a property and then keep reserves back for maybe another acquisition. And in this case, he had a lot more than that. Part of our conversation was, here's the deal. It's already closed. We'll give you the opportunity, if you're interested, to go out and learn the process of capital raising on a property that's already been acquired. So maybe in some sense, a little bit de-risked with the opportunity to show potential investors that, hey, here's our initial projection on rents. And we've already, in many cases, exceeded some of those expectations. So I've been out there for the last almost 90 days now, just meeting, created an Excel database. I've got about 300 people in there and reaching out several times a day to just schedule these one-on-one coffees, sometimes lunches, and beginning the process of getting together with friends and family. I called a landscape guy the other day I hadn't seen in 25 years, but I remember that he had done real estate at one point and we talked. So of course he was a little suspicious when he picked up the phone, but he did fortunately enough remember who I was. And we're going to be getting together sometime this week. So it's been a very interesting experience so far, really an adventure, right? To just reach out for the first time and, explain process of, hey, I'm a partner in this project and my approach has been to really want to get your feedback on some of this information. And, if it's something that you're interested in or somebody comes to mind as we're talking that about that needs to see this, then, I would really appreciate hearing about that as well. And so far, so good. Lots of good conversations and, lots of trial and error for me, just dialing in the whole process and the approach. But I never knew before I got into this training that, that there was the acquisition side and the capital side could be really, in a lot of cases, two totally different approaches and maybe personalities. And, if nothing else, it need to have partnership on multifamily, right? If you've got somebody who's typically better on the capital side or acquisition side and you can bring them both together, then that's a really good idea.
And if I recall, that was something you were worried about coming into this, like, oh, am I going to be able to raise capital? I've never done it before. Can you speak a little bit to that? And how did that kind of change happen throughout?
Yeah, I would say just not having any, the other course that I took, they talked about the importance of raising capital, but there was really no instruction about it other than, these are the legal forms. If you form a syndication, here's what the operating agreement looks like. Here's what the PPM looks like, but no real specific coaching or encouragement. So I think if Chad hadn't really sat me down and said, hey, this is, I see some points of interest here and I think you'd be really good. I think you can do this. And, I need a capital raiser. So I think you're here at the right time. Let's just turn you loose here and see what you can do. And I would say I had very unrealistic expectations about capital raising when I first started. I thought, I'd sit down, have a cup of coffee with Garrett, and 30 minutes later, you'd be pulling out your checkbook to say, here's a check for $100,000. Who do I write it to? And so there's been a learning process there. And I'm realizing just like anything else, there's work that's involved. There's, building momentum and, doing the right activity and just continuing to just persevere. Those are all things that I'm learning every day as I kind of move through this process. And, I've had some pretty easy, the first couple of people I talked to actually invested right away. I think when I talked to you several weeks ago, the first guy I talked to said he was in $200,000 first time we talked. So that was again, I thought, wow, this is easy. I can do this, and then I went probably 30 days after that with no one or, until I got investor number two. So there's a lot of trying to predict who's going to be a potential investor and how it's going to happen. I've just realized, it's kind of out of my control. There are things I can do to help increase the likelihood of success, but the rest of it's still kind of a mystery so far.
Gotcha. So you had that one win right away and then a little bit of a stall, but you knew that as long as you continue the activities, you did it once, you could do it again. And you did, and you got into that deal. So that's pretty awesome. Cool. And last thing, like, what would you say to someone who might be thinking about joining the mentorship program, but might be on the fence?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing for me was desire. I knew I didn't have the tools and maybe hadn't had the track record of success before joining this program, but I knew that I had a lot of desire and I was motivated. I did feel like there was a part of me that felt like if I could just get in the right place with the right environment around me, that maybe good things could happen. And, that's exactly what happened from the day we started up until now. I've just had nothing but support and, the network of other people who have joined this program and are continuing on to be successful and help other people is very impressive as well. I've had great experiences reaching out to people in the program and having just very generous with their knowledge and willingness to share and help other people. And that's made me want to, in turn, have an opportunity to do the same. So it's a genuine program. It's very simple and specific. It does require work as everything in life, but I'm beginning to build confidence and belief that if I continue to practice the steps and reach out to people on this wonderful team for assistance, that good things and success and confidence will continue to grow.
Awesome, Scott. Well, I'm excited to hear about your next deal even after this one. So I appreciate you sharing your experience, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks, Garrett.